Ladies and gentlemen, in relationships, whether romantic, social, or professional, we often seek control, validation, and attachment. Yet in this pursuit we become vulnerable. We suffer when expectations are not met, when emotions cloud judgment, and when we surrender our peace to external forces. But there is a better way. A way that is rooted in discipline, self-mastery, and power. To win not over others, but over yourself, you must detach, disappear, and dominate. 1. Detach. Master your emotions. The greatest weakness in any relationship is emotional dependence. When you crave validation, fear rejection, or become attached to an outcome, you give away your power. Detachment is not about apathy, it is about discipline. Recognize that no one owes you anything, and you owe nothing in return except your integrity. Stand firm in yourself, and you will never be shaken by the storms of others. 2. Disappear. Withdraw when necessary. Silence is power. Absence is influence. When conflict arises, when you are not victorious, when your emotions run high, disappear. Withdraw not in weakness but in strategic retreat. Let your absence create space for clarity. Let others feel the weight of your missing presence. A person who is always available is taken for granted. A person who knows when to walk away is respected. 3. Dominate. Command your reality. Domination is not control over others, it is mastery over yourself. It is the ability to walk away from what does not serve you. It is the strength to remain unaffected by praise or criticism. Those who command their own reality are naturally followed. They do not chase, they attract. They do not beg, they choose. Win by refusing to play games. To be truly powerful in relationships, one must cultivate detachment, not from people, but from the need for validation or fear of rejection. This does not mean indifference, nor does it imply shutting oneself off from emotional experiences. Rather, it is the deliberate discipline of governing one's own reactions, thoughts, and expectations. It is the understanding that external forces, including the opinions and behaviors of others, should not dictate one's internal state. Many suffer because they tie their self-worth to how others perceive them. They crave approval, fearing disapproval as though it diminishes their value. But the opinions of others are fleeting, ever-changing, and influenced by factors beyond one's control. One day you may be admired, the next forgotten or criticized. To hinge happiness on such an unstable foundation is to live in constant turmoil. True strength comes from severing this dependency, from realizing that external praise does not elevate, nor does rejection diminish. A person who requires validation is easily manipulated. Their emotions rise and fall with the judgments of those around them, making them reactive rather than in control. They alter their behavior, opinions, and even their sense of self to gain approval, surrendering their autonomy in the process. But the one who is detached remains unshaken. Whether praised or condemned, they remain the same, rooted in their own values and principles, unaffected by external fluctuations. This does not mean arrogance or ignoring feedback, but rather recognizing that external opinions do not define internal worth. Rejection for many is feared as though it is a personal failure. When someone distances themselves, denies affection, or withdraws approval, it is easy to internalize it, assuming it reflects personal inadequacy. But rejection is often a reflection of the other person's circumstances, desires, or limitations, not an absolute judgment of one's worth. To take it personally is to misunderstand its nature. The detached individual sees rejection as information, not as a wound. They do not beg for acceptance, nor do they linger where they are not valued. They simply move forward, knowing that their worth remains intact regardless of how others perceive them. The key to detachment is recognizing that the only true control one has is over oneself. Trying to control how others see you, how they respond to you, or how they feel about you is futile. Efforts to gain approval often backfire, as desperation repels rather than attracts. But the one who does not seek validation exudes confidence, and confidence is magnetic. Paradoxically, it is the person who does not chase approval who often commands the most respect. They are valued not because they demand attention, but because they operate from a place of self-sufficiency. A detached person does not avoid emotional connections, but they engage in them without losing themselves. They love, but they do not cling. They care but they do not need. They appreciate admiration, but they do not depend on it. This makes them formidable, as they cannot be easily manipulated, hurt, or controlled. Their emotional stability is self-generated, not granted by the fleeting opinions of others. They remain centered, regardless of whether they are loved or ignored, praised or criticized, welcomed or rejected. To achieve this level of detachment, one must develop a mindset of internal sufficiency. Instead of looking outward for reassurance, one must cultivate inner stability. Instead of seeking approval, one must approve of oneself. This requires self-awareness, discipline, and a refusal to be ruled by ego. The ego thrives on validation and shrinks in rejection, but the detached individual transcends the ego. They do not measure their value based on how others treat them, but on how they carry themselves. Every day presents an opportunity to practice detachment. When receiving praise, do not allow it to inflate your sense of self. Accept it, appreciate it, but do not depend on it. When facing criticism, do not let it wound you. Evaluate it objectively, learn if there is wisdom in it, but do not internalize it. When experiencing rejection, remind yourself that it is not a reflection of your worth, but merely a mismatch of circumstances, preferences, or timing. The world respects those who do not crave its approval. The most powerful individuals are those who stand firm in their identity, unaffected by the shifting tides of others' opinions. They are free from the need to impress, free from the fear of rejection, and free from the emotional instability that plagues those who seek external validation. This is true strength, and it is within reach for those willing to master themselves. To command respect, one must understand the power of absence. In a world where people are constantly seeking attention, validation, and connection, the ability to withdraw strategically is a rare and formidable trait. Many believe that by being ever present, always available, and consistently engaged, they will maintain relevance and influence. However, the opposite is often true. Too much availability breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds contempt. When one is always accessible, their presence becomes expected rather than valued. They are taken for granted, their words lose weight, and their impact diminishes. The power of disappearance lies in its ability to restore scarcity, making one's presence meaningful rather than routine. Absence forces reflection. When someone withdraws, it creates space for others to consider their value. When something is constantly within reach, it is seldom appreciated. This principle applies to all relationships, romantic, professional, and social. When a person is always there, their significance is often overlooked, but when they step away, their absence is felt, and this absence compels recognition. People begin to realize what they had, what they lost, and what they may no longer have access to. Strategic withdrawal is not about abandonment or disengagement for the sake of ego. It is a calculated move, employed to preserve dignity, reinforce self-respect, and ensure that one's value is acknowledged. It is about knowing when to step back, when to remove oneself from a situation, and when to allow distance to speak louder than words ever could. There are moments when explanations, arguments, and efforts to prove oneself are futile. In such times, silence and absence are the most powerful responses. A person who can walk away at will possesses an undeniable power. They are not trapped by the fear of being forgotten or replaced. Their self-worth is not tied to how often they are seen or heard, but to the undeniable impact they leave behind. Those who overstay, who linger in places where they are not valued, who chase attention and validation, weaken their own position. They reveal a dependence that makes them easy to overlook, easy to manipulate, and easy to disregard. The most respected individuals understand that their presence should be a privilege, not a given. They do not make themselves excessively available, nor do they seek constant engagement. Instead, they appear when necessary, speak when it matters, and vanish when their presence is no longer beneficial. This cultivates an aura of mystery and unpredictability, qualities that naturally command intrigue and respect. People are drawn to what they cannot easily grasp, and absence creates that allure. The ability to disappear also serves as a tool for self-preservation. Constant engagement, especially in situations filled with conflict, emotional turmoil, or power struggles, drains energy and diminishes clarity. Distance provides perspective. It allows emotions to settle, thoughts to reorganize, and priorities to realign. When one is too immersed in a situation, they often react rather than respond. They become entangled in unnecessary conflicts, seeking resolution where none is needed. Stepping away provides the space necessary to assess whether further engagement is even worthwhile. Moreover, disappearance is the ultimate test of one's influence. Those who truly matter will notice and feel the absence. Those who do not will simply move on, revealing the truth about the nature of the relationship. Many fear stepping away because they believe it will result in being forgotten or replaced. But if one's presence held real value, their absence will only magnify it. If their absence goes unnoticed, then their presence was never truly valued to begin with. This is a necessary realization, one that separates meaningful connections from superficial attachments. To master the art of disappearance, one must overcome the fear of being forgotten. The need to constantly assert oneself, to always be present, to ensure one is not overlooked. This is weakness disguised as strength. True power lies in knowing that one's worth does not decrease simply because they are not always visible. A strong individual does not beg for attention or fight for recognition. They step back, knowing that their impact is felt even in their silence. In relationships, both personal and professional, the person who can walk away holds the upper hand. The one who is willing to disappear when necessary commands more respect than the one who clings out of fear. It is not coldness but discipline. It is the understanding that attention should be earned, not demanded. By strategically withdrawing, one reinforces their value and ensures that their presence remains something to be desired rather than taken for granted. There is wisdom in knowing when to engage and when to withdraw. Not every battle needs to be fought. Not every conversation needs a response. And not every relationship deserves constant investment. Walking away is not always about leaving for good. Sometimes it is about creating enough space for appreciation to grow. It is about letting others realize what they stand to lose. It is about maintaining the upper hand, not by force, not by persuasion, but simply by mastering the power of absence. To dominate is not to control others, but to master oneself. True dominance is not about coercion, manipulation, or exerting power over those around you. It is about developing such unshakable discipline, self-awareness, and inner control that nothing external can dictate your emotions, reactions, or sense of worth. The strongest individuals are not those who seek to impose their will upon others, but those who have complete command over their own minds, emotions, and actions. In a world where most people are governed by their impulses, fears, and desires, the one who can govern himself stands apart. Many believe that dominance comes from external control, having authority over people, dictating their actions, and bending circumstances to fit one's will. But this is an illusion, a fleeting form of power that crumbles the moment external factors shift. No one can truly control another person, nor can they control the ever-changing nature of life itself. Attempts to do so only lead to frustration, disappointment, and eventual weakness. The real path to strength lies in mastering what is within your grasp, your own mind, reactions, choices, and discipline. Self-mastery is the foundation of all power. When a person has complete control over their emotions, they cannot be provoked. When they govern their desires, they cannot be manipulated. When they understand their own mind, they do not waver in uncertainty. They do not act out of impulse but out of purpose. They are not swayed by flattery or wounded by criticism. They do not react to the chaos around them. Instead, they move with precision and intent. This level of control makes them untouchable, impervious to the influence of others. Those who seek to dominate others often do so out of insecurity. They fear losing control, so they try to dictate outcomes, micromanage people, or demand compliance. But such tactics reveal a lack of true strength. A person who is truly dominant has no need to force anyone's hand, because they already possess everything they need within themselves. They do not chase approval, nor do they fear rejection. They do not need constant reassurance or control over others' decisions. They know that real power does not come from bending others to their will, but from ensuring that their own will is unbreakable. Mastery over the self requires discipline. It demands the ability to delay gratification, to withstand discomfort, and to move forward with clarity, even when emotions urge otherwise. Most people are slaves to their impulses, acting out of anger, fear, or desire without thinking. They lash out when insulted, seek revenge when wronged, and crave validation when uncertain. But the dominant individual remains steady. They do not react to insults, nor do they waste energy on trivial battles. They choose their responses carefully, knowing that emotion-driven decisions are often the weakest. To dominate is also to remain independent. Dependency on others, whether for validation, security, or happiness, creates vulnerability. The more one relies on external sources for internal stability, the easier they are to control. A person who needs constant reassurance will be manipulated by those who offer it. A person who fears abandonment will be controlled by those who threaten to leave. A person who cannot be alone will tolerate disrespect just to maintain company. But the one who is self-sufficient, who is content within their own mind and does not rely on others for their sense of worth, is impossible to control. They stay because they choose to, not because they need to. They leave when necessary without fear or hesitation. Emotional control is the highest form of dominance. The one who can remain calm in chaos, who can think clearly under pressure, and who does not let emotions dictate their actions holds a power that few can match. This does not mean suppressing emotions or becoming indifferent. It means acknowledging emotions without allowing them to take over. It means responding instead of reacting, choosing instead of obeying impulses. When others are driven by frustration, fear, or desire, the master of self remains steady, making calculated decisions rather than emotional ones. A dominant individual does not seek revenge or validation. They do not waste time proving themselves to those who doubt them. Their actions speak for them. They walk away when necessary, not out of weakness, but out of the knowledge that their presence is valuable and should not be wasted where it is not respected. They do not explain themselves endlessly, nor do they try to convince others of their worth. They know who they are, and that is enough. In every aspect of life, relationships, work, personal growth, those who master themselves rise above those who seek to control others. They are respected because they are unwavering. They are trusted because they are consistent. They are followed because they do not chase. They command attention not by demanding it but by embodying strength, discipline, and self-reliance. They do not fear loss because they know they can rebuild. They do not fear rejection because they validate themselves. They do not seek control over others because they have already won the only battle that matters, the battle within. Silence is one of the most underrated yet powerful tools of influence. In a world where people speak to fill the void, where conversations are filled with empty words, and where many feel the need to constantly assert themselves, the ability to remain silent is a rare and formidable strength. Those who master the art of silence do not merely withhold words. They cultivate a presence that commands attention without demanding it. They observe what others miss, they understand before they speak, and when they do choose to speak, their words carry the weight of certainty and precision. Most people speak out of impulse rather than intention. They react rather than respond, filling conversations with unnecessary explanations, justifications, and emotions. They believe that speaking more equates to control, that volume equals dominance, and that constant engagement ensures relevance. However, those who truly understand influence know that power often lies in restraint. The more one speaks, the more they reveal not only their thoughts but their insecurities, their weaknesses, and their need for validation. Silence, on the other hand, conceals. It forces others to wonder, to question, to fill in the blanks with their own assumptions. In doing so, it creates an aura of mystery and control. To speak less is not to disengage, nor is it to avoid expression. It is to refine one's words to such an extent that every statement carries significance. Words lose value when they are used excessively. If one speaks too often, their voice becomes background noise. But when a person speaks rarely, only when necessary, their words are taken seriously. They become someone worth listening to because they have mastered the art of saying only what needs to be said. Precision in speech commands attention, while excess weakens it. Silence is also a weapon of observation. While others fill the air with words, the silent one listens. They absorb details, study behaviors, and recognize patterns that go unnoticed by those too focused on speaking. They see beyond what is being said, detecting inconsistencies, hidden motives, and unspoken truths. A person who observes more than they speak is always one step ahead, for they act based on knowledge rather than assumption. In negotiation, silence forces the other party to reveal more. In conflict, silence unsettles and disarms. In relationships, silence forces others to reflect, often revealing their true intentions. There is discomfort in silence, and that discomfort creates leverage. Most people cannot tolerate quiet. They feel compelled to fill it with explanations, justifications, or meaningless chatter. But the one who embraces silence wields a subtle form of control. In moments of tension, remaining silent forces others to speak first, to show their hand, to reveal what they would otherwise keep hidden. Silence disrupts, making others uneasy, causing them to question themselves, and in that questioning, they often expose their vulnerabilities. Moreover, silence cultivates discipline. To speak less requires self-restraint, an ability to resist the urge to react emotionally or impulsively. It forces one to process thoughts, to weigh the necessity of each word before speaking. Those who lack control over their words often lack control over their emotions, allowing anger, insecurity, or impatience to dictate their responses. But the one who remains silent until it is necessary to speak operates from a place of power, never saying more than is needed, never revealing more than is beneficial. Precision in action follows precision in speech. Just as words should be chosen carefully, so too should actions. The one who speaks less does not waste energy on unnecessary arguments, conflicts, or explanations. They act deliberately, each move calculated for maximum impact. When they enter a conversation, they do so with purpose. When they engage, they do so because it matters. This selective engagement makes their presence significant. They are not easily accessed, not easily swayed, and not easily provoked. Ultimately, silence is a form of dominance. It is not passive, it is intentional. It shifts the dynamic of power, forcing others to lean in, to listen, to anticipate. It creates space for thought, both for oneself and for others. It forces the world to take notice, not because one demands attention, but because their presence, their restraint, and their mastery of words and actions make them impossible to ignore. The ability to walk away is the ultimate form of power in any relationship. It is the silent statement that you do not fear loss, that you are not bound by attachment, and that your self-worth is not dependent on another's presence or approval. Most people remain in situations long past their expiration, trapped by fear, emotional dependence, or the illusion that staying will somehow change things. But the strongest individuals understand that real power does not come from fighting to hold on. It comes from knowing when to let go. Walking away is not an act of weakness or avoidance. It is an assertion of self-respect, a recognition that no relationship, no matter how deep or meaningful, should compromise one's sense of self. Many stay in unfulfilling, toxic, or imbalanced relationships out of habit, fear of loneliness, or the hope that things will improve. But when someone knows their worth, they do not beg for attention, chase affection, or remain in places where they are not valued. They do not try to force people to see their worth. They simply remove themselves, leaving others to realize what they have lost. Control in any relationship lies with the one who needs it the least. The person who cannot walk away is at the mercy of the one who can. Dependence, whether emotional, financial, or psychological, creates imbalance. The more one relies on another, the more power they relinquish. But the person who is self-sufficient, who does not fear solitude, who is perfectly at peace with the possibility of walking away, holds all the leverage. They are not controlled by attachment, and because of that, they are respected. To walk away is not always about leaving permanently. Sometimes it is about creating space, setting boundaries, and allowing absence to reinforce value. Many relationships suffer not because there is a lack of love, but because there is an excess of availability. When something is always present, it is taken for granted. But when it is removed, its absence is felt. Walking away, even temporarily, forces others to evaluate what they stand to lose. It creates a void that demands acknowledgement. The ability to leave is the greatest test of any relationship. If leaving changes nothing, then staying never mattered. If someone does not care about your absence, they did not truly value your presence. This truth is often difficult to accept, but it is necessary. It eliminates illusions and reveals the reality of where one stands. The strongest people do not cling to what is not meant for them, they let go and move forward without hesitation. Walking away requires emotional control. It demands the discipline to resist the urge to explain, to argue, to plead for understanding. Many stay in situations that drain them simply because they fear confrontation, they want closure, or they hope to be heard. But true closure does not come from convincing another to see your worth. It comes from recognizing that their perception does not define your value. There is no need to justify leaving a situation that no longer serves you. The act of walking away itself is the statement. The greatest strength in walking away comes from knowing that you will be fine regardless of the outcome. Those who fear leaving often do so because they believe they cannot survive without the other person. But this is an illusion. No external relationship is necessary for survival. Everything needed for fulfillment already exists within. The moment one realizes this, they become untouchable. No rejection, no loss, no departure can break them because they do not depend on anyone else for their sense of wholeness. To walk away is not an act of indifference, but an act of self-respect. It is the understanding that love, attention, and validation should never be begged for. The strongest relationships are built not on dependency but on mutual choice. And when a choice is no longer beneficial, when respect is lacking, when presence is not appreciated, walking away is the only answer. It is the silent but powerful assertion that nothing is worth sacrificing one's dignity. Those who master the ability to leave never find themselves trapped. They do not tolerate mistreatment, they do not linger in uncertainty, and they do not wait for someone else to decide their worth. They set the terms, they move on when necessary, and they never look back. This is the ultimate position of power, the unwavering confidence that no matter where they go, they will always have themselves, and that is enough. Self-sufficiency is the foundation of true strength. In a world where people constantly seek validation, support, and reassurance from others, the ability to stand alone is rare and powerful. Most people operate under the illusion that they need external sources, relationships, wealth, status, or approval to feel complete. However, the strongest individuals understand that everything they need already exists within them. They do not rely on others for happiness, confidence, or direction. Their sense of worth is not dictated by external circumstances, but is rooted in an unshakable internal foundation. Dependence on others creates vulnerability. The more one needs, the easier they are to control. When a person relies on others for validation, they become a slave to opinions. When they depend on others for financial support, they lose their autonomy. When they require emotional reassurance, they give others power over their state of mind. But the one who is self-sufficient cannot be manipulated, because they ask for nothing. They are immune to the highs and lows created by the judgments and actions of others. Their confidence is internal, their peace is self-sustained, and their direction is set by their own will. Many fear self-sufficiency because it requires taking full responsibility for one's life. It is easier to place blame on external factors, to believe that happiness, success, or fulfillment is dependent on the actions of others. But relying on external sources is a fragile way to live. People are unpredictable, circumstances change. To build one's foundation on anything outside of oneself is to live in a constant state of uncertainty. But when a person cultivates complete independence mentally, emotionally, and materially, they become untouchable. No rejection can shake them, no loss can break them, and no external failure can define them. Emotional independence is one of the most crucial aspects of self-sufficiency. Most people seek comfort in relationships, needing companionship to feel whole. They tolerate disrespect, cling to toxic situations, and accept less than they deserve simply because they fear being alone. But the self-sufficient individual is never afraid of solitude, because they understand that their own company is enough. They do not chase affection or beg for love, they attract respect by being completely content on their own. This mindset does not mean rejecting relationships, but rather approaching them from a place of strength rather than need. A person who does not require anyone is the one who is valued most, because their presence is a choice, not a necessity. Self-sufficiency also extends to financial and practical independence. Relying on others for basic survival creates an imbalance of power. The one who provides controls the one who depends. Freedom comes only when a person can fully provide for themselves, ensuring that their choices are dictated by their own or rather than by necessity. Financial independence is not just about wealth, it is about having the ability to walk away from any situation without fear. It is about ensuring that no one else dictates the terms of your life. Beyond emotional and financial aspects, self-sufficiency is also about mental resilience. Most people are easily influenced by external opinions, social pressure, and trends. They conform, they seek approval, and they fear standing alone. But the one who is mentally self-sufficient follows their own path, unshaken by outside forces. They trust their judgment, make decisions without the need for validation, and do not waver in the face of opposition. Their mindset is one of strength, built on internal clarity rather than external influence. A self-sufficient person does not ask for permission to live as they choose. They do not need support to pursue their goals, nor do they wait for others to believe in them. They move forward with or without approval, knowing that their success is their responsibility alone. This independence grants them an aura of confidence that commands respect. People are naturally drawn to those who do not seek attention, who do not need constant reassurance, and who carry themselves with certainty. When a person reaches true self-sufficiency, they no longer seek external sources for happiness, nor do they fear loss. They are content in solitude, powerful in their independence, and fearless in their decisions. They are not controlled by love, money, or approval because they require nothing outside of themselves to feel whole. This is the highest form of power, the ability to stand alone, unshaken and complete. True power comes from within. The moment you stop seeking validation, security, and happiness from external sources, you become unstoppable. When you master self-sufficiency, no rejection can shake you, no loss can break you, and no opinion can define you. You are free not because you have everything, but because you need nothing. This is the ultimate strength, to walk your path with confidence, knowing that everything you will ever need is already within you.